JT, when I saw this tweet, I ran to you. Finally,
he did.
Has the day come for Utah fans where they get to be the good guys compared to BYU? This is from the Furlong Podcast, tweeted out by Greg Welch. The quote is, "There's a mature tone from Utah now. There's been an evolution in how the Big 12 fans view them. It's been funny with the tampering stuff that BYU's been linked to. There's a turning of the tide of fans toward Utah saying, we're sorry that we hated you so much." Now, if you listen to Locked On Big 12, Jake Hatch was on the show last week. If you listen to Locked On Big 12, we poke fun at Utah a ton. And BYU is, as you've mentioned before, a growing, budding brand in college football. They're breaking onto the scene, and NIL is a big part of that, the transfer portal. But how do you, for this Furlong Podcast quote, is this real? Is Utah the good guy now? Is BYU turned heel?
Well, yeah, Josh Furlong's one of the top beat writers that covers the team, KSL.com. So absolutely a reputable source. And I'll say this, it's very interesting. Like when you talk about like, as some people like turning to Utah, it felt like a lot of Oklahoma State Twitter as of recently was siding with Utah with some of the tampering rumors and allegations, things surrounding a Justin Kirkland. I want to emphasize rumors more than anything, because that's what that one was versus some of the other reporting based on some of them. I do think I think it's a mix, right? I think there are some fans, as this is social media, right? Like it's hard to set a social media, like just this is how it is on social media, because there are so many differing opinions. I think there are some fans that look at it now, especially the Oklahoma State ones, as I mentioned, that are like, oh, look, we think BYU did this to us, so now we're on Utah's side and we're frustrated with BYU. But there are still people who bring up how last year Utah came into the conference and acted like they were better. Did some people do that? I guess. Sure. I felt like for the most part, though, it was just like, hey, on paper, we thought this team had the best roster and had the best chance to win the league at the time. And some people will still hold that against the Utah too, right? So I think it's a very mixed thing. And honestly, based on what I've seen, but it is very tough to tell just because it depends on what you see on social media, which is such a wide pool. I still feel like it's more negative towards Utah. Maybe that's how I'm treated on the squad show too. So maybe that's why I say that. But I don't know, Drake. I don't feel like it's something that's swung in positively in Utah's favor. But some of the rumors that have surrounded the way BYU has gone about building their roster, like just in general, like have not been good for the BYU brand. If you're talking about how certain rumors and what people think of them, it's not good when you have smoke surrounding these things. You can believe whatever reporting or think this about that, whatever. I'm just saying when those things are being leveled against you, that's not good. And that's why in some fan bases' eyes, BYU has become the bad guy in a way.
Every conference needs a UT. Everybody, they need the one school, and Ohio State and Michigan both get to play this card a little bit. The one school that fan bases can rally around to dislike. Typically, the reason that school is disliked is because they are either good or they are cocky. And when they're good, they flaunt that. And when they're bad, they're still confident because that's what college football fans are supposed to do. To me, if this all flips and BYU becomes the bad guy of the Big 12, which I don't think we're trending completely in that direction right now. I think that most of the tampering stuff blew over within a week. Utah has been in its first year, especially after the Mark Harlan quotes and the way the fans came in and the team not performing very well. Utah they've been the butt of a lot of jokes at this conference. And while that's got to suck for Utah fans, it's also great for building rivalries. It's great for building exposure. It's great for people being invested. Now, an Iowa State fan wants to beat Utah, which is in an insane sentence 5 years ago. But if that is the case today, it puts more butts in seats, more eyeballs on games. Is Utah filling a villain role? Should they? Because to me, if this all flips and Utah becomes the good guy after this tampering rumor deal, I don't know if that behooves the Big 12.
They were in the past. Maybe they still are. The Big 12 had a villain hole. The villain was Texas and Oklahoma. They left. So who's going to be cast as the villain? Last year it was Utah because they came in with this expectation and getting a lot of media love. And there's always been that thing about, hey, what Pac-12 football is, in a lot of ways, I think a false narrative. But hey, Pac-12 football is this. They can't come play Big 12 football with us. You're saying this soft team from the Pac-12 is going to come into the Big 12 and run our conference? That's where right away Utah got off on a bad foot with a lot of those teams. So I do feel like this is an instance in a situation where if you made me say right now, like, who's the villain of the Big 12? Like, currently, while we sit here right here today, I would say it probably is Utah, just because of how everything was received last year too. But all it takes is Arizona State going back to back, something that is incredibly hard to do, and they could be the villain. You know who else is right up there probably for the villain of this conference? And when I say villain, I mean the most disliked. It's Colorado, because a lot of people don't like the way that Deion Sanders and the Buffs do certain things too. So that's one right away that I look at too. Mike Gundy is not always the most popular guy. So if Oklahoma State has a lot of success, I think right away they would be the villain. And you mentioned BYU. If BYU were to win it, or go back to back or anything like that, they would absolutely become the villain of this conference. Because anytime you are the most successful at something, there's that, what's that quote, like where it's like they love to see a hero rise, but then they love to see him fall even more. We see that all the time, where a lot of people will root for the ascension of a team. Patrick Mahomes wasn't always one of the most disliked players in the NFL, but all of a sudden he got really good. He was doing these passes and plays that we'd never seen. Then it gets oversaturated. You see him everywhere, and now everything's about it. Now Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, it's all Chiefs, and no one really hated the Chiefs back when Alex Smith was the QB there, but now everyone hates them because they've won a bunch. So whoever wins the most of this conference year in and year out on a consistent basis, which the Big 12 has not really been consistent, it's unpredictable. That's what we love about it. But whoever becomes the most consistent team in this conference year over year, as long as hopefully the conference stays together, they will become the villain.
It still feels like many BYU fans are throwing Utah under the bus, as they should. I'm not.
It's rivalry. I have no issue with it.
Utah fans should do the exact same. But fans of every Big 12 school seemed to unite a few months ago around BYU. And maybe, according to this podcaster or beat reporter, that is changing. I don't know. I don't have a read on it. I'm only on Twitter so much. But the question I would ask then, why do you think so many Big 12 fans fell in love with BYU?
So many Big 12 fans fell in love with BYU. I think it was a cool, well, number one, I'm just going to say this right away, Drake. I think most of the people that I think it is BYU fans. Like, I do think that is the number one thing over everything. Sure, maybe did they root for BYU a little bit because Utah was big bad Utah in terms of just the team that came in with all these expectations saying they were going to run the conference. That's part of it too. For BYU, though, the story, I think from a PR standpoint, I think Kalani Sitake is incredibly likable. I think the Jake Retzlaff story was a fantastic one, too, and really cool. You're talking about a team that did, what else did they have? Underdog narrative. Didn't win a lot of games. We were projected at 4.5 wins. Skyrocket past that. Playing a bunch of fun, exciting, and close games, too. I don't really know who on BYU you can look at and be like, oh, I hate them, I can't stand them, versus I don't really think Utah had anyone, but just because of those expectations that were kind of there, and they had one in the past, I think there were a lot of people that disliked that about Utah. So I look at it for that standpoint, but I do feel like that will turn very quickly. Once again, if BYU wins a lot, I mean, Drake, do you view, you were asking me who I view as the villain. Do you view Utah as the villain of this conference right now?
I hope so. Again, it goes back to that first statement. We need it. We need someone to be there. We do, objectively. So playing into that only helps the conference as a whole. If Utah wins the Big 12 championship next season, that's the best possible scenario, quite possibly for the Big 12 conference. Why? Because you said it. The more you win, the more people hate you. So
is it BYU? If that happens with BYU, do you think, like, if BYU went back to back, do you disagree with me that I feel like they become the villain of the conference?
Yeah, at some point, if BYU goes back to back, there are Big 12 fans and this is the same for Alabama. People hated Alabama because they kept winning. I mean, if you keep winning, that people hate Clemson in the ACC because they keep winning. That's what's going to happen for BYU, for Kansas State, for an Oklahoma State, for an Arizona State, as you mentioned beforehand. But having a built-in heel, a school to hate whether they're good or bad, a la Texas, is great for this league. If Utah's going to fill that role, it's only going to help the Big 12 conference. And if they do win next season, the same way when Texas won the Big 12 title, everyone was furious. You had to watch because you hate watch. You're rooting for anyone who's playing Texas. If Utah can be that, it only means more exposure, more PR. And that's a good thing. JT Westersill, where can folks find more of your work?
Well, speaking of exposure and PR, my friend, you can find me at Locked On Utes on X, as well as on YouTube there too. And at JT Westersill on X too. Drake, am I just really pale or are you tan? I can't decide.
I've been sitting at the beach a little bit, that's where I live. So
I think I need to light it better. That's probably part of it too. I feel like I'm very, very pale. I'm almost looking as blue as like BYU as I was talking about so much.
This has been and always will be. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. A crossover with Utes and Dose Grande.